So the hot water cylinder itself. So we've had a look at the external unit. Once the heat is basically generated, goes into the pipework, the next place the pipework really appears is adjacent to the hot water cylinder. So this looks quite complicated because it is actually a distribution system as well as the hot water cylinder. So it does look more complicated than maybe you've seen before, maybe with a gas or oil boiler. But all the components are normally there somewhere. It's just this is what's called a pre-plumbed cylinder, and it makes life easier mainly for the installer and the packaging because quite a lot of the work's already done within the factory. In terms of components, we've got filters, we've got pumps, we've got valves, and again, a lot of that's already built onto the cylinder. So there isn't a lot for the homeowner to do here, but there is a couple of things worth just bearing in mind. Number one is a reasonably common fault, especially on a new system, is that the pressure drops within the system. It's a sealed system. We're not dealing with loft tanks anymore or anything like that. When air is released from that system, and it's always going to be there on a new system, the installer can only do the best job that they can. They'll get rid of the majority of it. But if there's any air left out of there, we've got an automatic air bleed on here, and air can come out of the system. Basically, we just need to re-establish that pressure. So somewhere around, there'll be a pressure gauge, and this one's currently showing slightly low, and we want to be seeing about 1 to 1.5 bar of pressure on there, and that would be indicated on the gauge. And to re-establish the pressure or increase the pressure, there's normally a braided pipe, and at either end of the braided pipe, there'll be little valves. Open up both the valves, that's allowing mains cold water to come into the system and just increase that pressure. Wait until the gauge goes up to between 1 and 1.5. Once we're there, remember to close the valves. Closing both valves, we're now isolating it back from the mains water supply. We're not going to put any more water into it. Hopefully we won't need to do that very often. If we do, it could indicate that there is a problem with the system. But very occasional is actually quite normal. The other components that are worth keeping an eye on is the safety devices. When I say keeping an eye on, if you notice it, then it's something that we need to involve in engineering. So the component here is called a tundish, and this is a visible device that allows us to see if there's a problem within the system without actually leaving the building. The next point of this pipe is actually discharging outside, so we wouldn't necessarily ever cotton onto that. Or if there's a regular pressure drop on the system, it's worth making sure that there's nothing coming through here. If you do see water coming through here, there isn't really anything that the homeowner can do, but that's the time to get an engineer involved and get somebody on site to have a look and investigate why the water is dripping through it. Certainly don't block up that pipe, it's dripping for a reason, and it's maintaining and it's doing its job, it's keeping you safe, but we need to find out what's actually occurring in the first place. Apart from that, got mains cold water coming in here, hot water's coming out the top of the unit, going off to your bathrooms and everything. And again, very, very little maintenance to do, very little to keep an eye on. For instance, the pump on it will only be running when one of the heating circuits is actually calling for heat. It's not going to be sitting there 24 hours a day.